Hey, welcome back to another episode of Simple Truth Television. Today is December 19th, 2024. So, I'm going to talk about an infamous drug lord who passed away 2 days ago, Rayful Edmond. And, his death, very similar to the stuff we've seen in the past, like the death of Alpo Martinez, Larry Davis, Frank Lucas. A lot of these infamous drug lords, they seem to all be, agents. And it looks like these people were actually working for the government, which we're gonna try to prove in this video. It's just amazing how deep the lie goes. These people were just they were just the face of a deeper scheme. Of course, this guy he operated during the Reagan era, right? The 80s and the early 90s when Ronald Reagan was the president. And yeah, he was working, right, probably a few blocks away from the White House. This guy controlled Washington D.C. and around those same times. Around the crack and the coke epidemic. Um, yeah, just make sure I want to make sure that the audio is good before I continue because I have this habit of doing an entire live stream and then nobody gets to hear nothing because of my microphone or something is always happening. So if I could just get the okay from one of my viewers, we can proceed. Um, I've done some work on Frank Lucas. We're gonna look back at the Frank Lucas case. Alpo, legendary Harlem drug dealer, and we're gonna put all this stuff together, show how it's all connected. All these people are working for the government. It's pretty obvious. It's undeniable. And in the case of Rayful Edmond, it looks like his death is a tribute to Donald Trump, who just finished winning the 60th selection. I read an article that said that Rayful Edmond he used to spend thousands of dollars at the Trump Plaza around the 80s when Trump and it's funny because he gets arrested around Trump 42nd birthday, which is interesting. Thanks a lot, Jimmy. Appreciate that. Okay, so the headline today was the former drug DC drug kingpin Rayful Edmond died at the age of 60. You know what's funny? He got released from prison on July 31st after serving a 35-year prison sentence. Right. So the guy he gets locked up at the age of 24. Like I said, he used to run DC. He used to operate his drug enterprise was out of DC, and he got locked up at the age of 24. So he spent 35 years in prison, then just to die a few months after his release. And he wasn't even out. He was supposed to be staying at a halfway house. So it's sick how these people do it. They have this guy serve a 35-year prison sentence and they murder him by the numbers. But I mean, he died. He died the day that the Pope Francis turned 88 years old. We're gonna talk about that as well, because this all seems to be connected to the Jesuit order. And again, it's also connected to the government, to the United States government. I think by looking at the way these rituals played out, it looks like the government was the one putting these people in place. Believe it or not, Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton, George Bush Sr. Those people seem to be behind a lot of these infamous drug lords. If you notice, there hasn't been a lot of new drug lords, right? All the drug lords seems to they all they all either died or are in jail right now. How come we haven't had a new famous drug lord in recent times? It's because all this stuff was all part of the big plan, all the part of the big drug epidemic that was going on, a big money business for the government. But they're saying that he died from a heart attack. This guy right here, Rayful Edmond, a former drug kingpin said to have introduced crack cocaine to D.C., has died at the age of 60. Edmond was released from prison at the end of July after serving more than 3 decades of a life sentence. Yeah, 35 years, the Catholic number. And the thing that stood out right away with this guy's death is notice his name in gematria. Rayful Edmond equals 60. Right, he's dead at the age of 60, and his name is 60, just like the name Wayne Perry, who we're gonna talk about. Somebody who also worked out of D.C., another infamous criminal, who's still alive, by the way. Notice this article says here that Wayne Silk Perry, he's currently at a supermax prison. This was like the hitman for Rayful Edmond and Alpo Martinez, the drug dealer out of Harlem. And notice how they all have this 60 connection, right? Rayful Edmond equals 60. The name Wayne Perry equals 60. The name Alpo Martinez equals 60. Rayful Edmond is dead at 60. The N-word has a value of 60. And you know what else equals 60? The name Donald Trump. And again, I read an article that said that Rayful Edmond, he used to shop at the Trump Plaza. That was his go-to place when that's pretty much where he wanted to spend all his drug money at, giving it back to Trump, right? And notice from Donald Trump's birthday, his 78th birthday on June 14th of this year, to the day that Mr. Rayful Edmond passed away, it was 186 days later. He died on the Pope's 88th birthday. So he died 186 days after Donald Trump's birthday. Notice the name Rayful Edmond in the reverse alphabetical order equals 186. And of course, you can say he also died on Donald Trump's 187th day of his age, right? Society of Jesus 187. 187 known as the police code for murder. Just notice how the name Rayful Edmond, Donald Trump both equals 138, and they both equal 60. He died right after the 60th selection. Actually, he died 42 days after Trump became 47. And we know the N-word is 42 and 60. He died 42 days after the 60th selection. And if you read into Rayful Edmond, he had a back and forth with John Thompson, the Georgetown Hoyas head coach. And you guys see how Rayful Edmond is 138 just like Donald Trump. The word federal was also 138. Yesterday, the Georgetown Hoyas, the team that John Thompson used to coach, notice they lost. The Blue Jays lost with 57 points. Rayful Edmond equals 57. This was a day after his death. And what is 57 plus 81? That's 138 points. So 138 points was scored a day after Rayful Edmond passes away. A guy who had a lot of history with John Thompson and the Georgetown Hoyas. If you read the Wikipedia article on him, it was something about they had like a beef because Rayful used to interfere with the players, right? He had a relationship with Alonzo Mourning and a lot of other players on that team, and John Thompson supposedly didn't want him having any connection to these players because John Thompson supposedly knew what this man was all about. And of course, this is all part of the ritual. I mean, Georgetown, big Jesuit university, and this guy's death ended up being a big Jesuit ritual. So that story was probably all bogus as well. Actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull up the article. We can just read it, and see exactly what was the beef between him and John Thompson. So let's go to Wikipedia. Okay, so here it is. The meeting with John Thompson. It says here that Edmond was an avid fan of the Georgetown Hoyas. Yes, that's why yesterday, a day after his death, there was 138 points combined, and the losing team lost with 57 points, the Blue Jays. And frequently sat courtside with his entourage at the Capitol Center for home games. At the height of his empire, he became very friendly with several Hoyer players. When Georgetown University basketball coach and D.C. native John Thompson confirmed that what was happening, he sent word through his sources to have Edmond meet him at his office at McDonald Gymnasium. How do you say that? McDonald? Whatever. You guys know you guys see it. When Edmond arrived, Thompson was initially cordial and informed Edmond that he needed to cease all contact with his players. Yeah, basically what I just said. Because he was having contact with John Turner, Alonzo Mourning. He was close friends with Edmond. And I think everybody in D.C. knew what this guy was all about. But what I get out of this is that this was all part of the ritual, all part of the ritual. If Rayful Edmond was really a criminal that wasn't associated with the government, and you know what, I actually read in this article that his parents were government officials. So both of your parents are government officials, and you're supposed to be this big time drug dealer who's going against the government, fighting a government case. But what I'm saying is, if this guy was really just a average Joe who was just a big time drug dealer, I don't think John Thompson would acknowledge him. I think John Thompson this would have been very secret. If John Thompson would have had a problem with him, he would have had, one of his security just banned him from going to the games, and that's it. It would have been a national news story that they had this meeting. Like, why would John Thompson meet up with a random person a drug dealer? It's because these people were all in on it, man. These people, they knew what was going on. This was all ritualistic, man. There's no way. That's like if somebody from our neighborhood who's big time drug dealer starts going to Knicks games. You trying to tell me that Tom Thibodeau is gonna have a meeting with that person to, like, no way. And another thing is, actually, like I said in my other videos, actual criminals do not get they don't become famous. You don't hear about them. You only hear about the agents, the people who work for the government, like Mr. Rayful Edmond, a known snitch, somebody who cooperated, turned a lot of people. A lot of people got arrested from D.C. because of his testimony, including Wayne Perry. This guy was an agent, and I'm not saying that everybody who worked for him was an agent. But the top boss was an agent, and that's what the government does. They give, like the rappers say, they give you the drugs and then they throw you in jail. They give you the drugs and then they throw you in jail. And then they have their big agents to be the head bosses, right? Because where was he getting all these? How was he getting all these drugs into D.C.? Who was supplying them? You trying to tell me that a poor kid from D.C. is just gonna have all these connections from one day to another? He says here that he was associated with the Medellin cartel. Like, how? How are you getting? How do you gain these connections? 2,000 kilos per week? Come on, man. You're trying to tell me that the Medellin cartel is gonna trust any average Joe from D.C. Oh, look, what's your name? Rayful Edmond. Okay, you want to work? You want to sell 2,000 kilos? Well, okay, here. We're just gonna trust you with 2,000 kilos. Okay, so basically that was the whole confrontation with him and John Thompson. But you guys notice how they pay tribute to these people through the basketball games. Like, this stuff is sick. Yesterday, his favorite basketball team win 81-57. Keep in mind that New World Order is also 75. The Blue Jays fell to 7-5. And what's funny enough is that from the death of Ronald Reagan to the death of Rayful Edmond, 7,500 days exactly. And going back to Wayne Perry, right? This was his hitman, Wayne Silk Perry. Notice his name in Gematria. Wayne Silk Perry, 201, 177, like the judge would order. And this guy, he also used to work for Alpo, whose name also equals 60, right? Like we saw. And Alpo was known as the mayor of Harlem. I remember he died a few years ago on Halloween at the age of 55. I spoke about that. He died on the anniversary of the Church of Satan foundation. And Satan equals 55. I'll go back to revisit the Alpo's ritual. But he was known as the mayor of Harlem. And notice the mayor of Harlem is 201, like the Jesuit order, like Order of Illuminati, like Ignatius of Loyola. Ignatius of Loyola is also 75, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that. Going along with that 7-5 record. And notice here that from his release, which was July 31st to his death on Saturnalia, the Pope's birthday, 139 days. And notice cocaine is 139, like Freemasonry. Of course, that's the 34th prime, and murder equals 34. This was the king of cocaine who died 130. So he was only free for 139 days. Think about that. He was only free for 139 days. And cocaine epidemic is also 78, like how Trump is 78 years old. Yeah, so it was this article here that talks about how he used to shop at the Trump Plaza. That's where he used to go to spend all his money just to die in a big Trump tribute right after the 60th selection at the age of 60. And he was on 60 Minutes when he spoke about all these shopping sprees at the Trump Plaza. Look at that. Look what it says here. Let me see if I can zoom in. Oh, I can't. Yeah, I don't know how to do that. Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to do that. Okay, so um, at his peak, Rayful sold 2,000 kilos a week. He reaped gross profits of $70 million a month. Yo. And this guy was in his early 20s. 70, like, $70 million a month today is crazy money. Like, I don't think nobody in the world makes that. You have to be like probably like a big time CEO. Like, I'm talking about like probably Bill Gates. Like we talk 70 million a month. I don't know. I don't, to be honest, I don't know anybody that makes that type of money. Maybe Bill Gates or Oprah, one of them. But that's a lot of money. And this 24-year-old, like, how does the state of Washington even make that kind of money? Like, this is, guys, I have to understand the year that this is, right? This is the 80s. 70 million in the 80s. Like, what is that? Like, probably like $200 million today? At its peak, Rayful sold 2,000 kilos a week, reaped gross profits of $70 million a month, and ran an operation with over 150 soldiers to support him. In the high-profile and glamorous life he led, champagne flowed like water, trips to Las Vegas, New York, and Los Angeles were commonplace, and $50,000 shopping sprees at the Trump Plaza were the routine. So yeah, he'll go to the Trump Plaza and spend $50,000 like nothing, giving all that money back to Trump. Of course, he was on 60 Minutes, and 60 Minutes called him the $300 million man. I don't know how they can call him the $300 million man if he's making $70 million a month. I mean, you can make $300 million in less than 6 months. But yeah, Rayful distributed 60% of the cocaine that flooded the city's streets, just to die at 60. Rayful Edmond equals 60, like Donald Trump. A lot of 60s, right? A lot of 60s. It was on 60 Minutes. 60% of the drugs came from Rayful Edmond. It says here that Rayful's downfall was the president and the CEO of what authorities call the largest network of cocaine street sales in Washington, D.C. It says that he was the president and the CEO of what authorities call the largest network for cocaine street sales in Washington, D.C. As a teenager, he did business with Colombian cartels and ironically destroyed the same Northeast neighborhood he grew up in, but at the same time helping residents to pay rent and buying clothes and food for them. He was a contradiction in terms, a Robin Hood for the hood. Just amazing. $70 million a month. And you trying to tell me the government didn't have a part in that? Yeah, right. Okay. What else? Yeah. So Alpo was Alpo. I think I watched the documentary that said Alpo got to DC after Rayful Edmond had already been locked up. Rayful Edmond got locked up at a very young age, right? 24 years old. So Alpo comes into the story, and this is another plant. I mean, all these people were plants, and the first time I heard about him was through the movie Paid in Full. And then this is what I've been saying, you guys: like, they don't make movies about actual criminals. They don't. They only make movies about plants. The movie Paid in Full came out on October 25th, 2002. which was 226 days before Al Poe's birthday. He was born June 8th, 1966, and notice in gematria, Alberto Martinez, his birth name, 226. So they put out the movie by the numbers, and they take them out by the numbers, and then they give them. They also give them these nicknames that show who they're really who they're really connected to. The mayor of Harlem, 201. Wayne Silk Perry, 201. The Jesuit Order, 201. This guy dies on the Pope's birthday. Jorge Mario Bergoglio equals 201. The Jesuit Pope. The Jesuit Order, 201. All these people have a Jesuit Order connection. All of them. And even American Gangster, Mr. Frank Lucas, who I don't know if I have a story on him, but a post on him. But I mean, this guy, American Gangster, I probably do. Let me just look at my blog real quick. Yeah, all these people are in on the big joke. Yeah, legendary Kingpin. Make this brighter for me. Frank Lucas died at he died at the age of 88. Look at that. So Frank Lucas dies at the age of 88, and then our friend Rayful Edmond dies on the Pope's 88th birthday. The word poison equals 88, just like marijuana. Smoking equals 88. The name Marley equals 88. Arsenic poison equals 88. Frank Lucas dead on the day with 74. Numerology, the American Gangster. All right, Denzel Washington is also 74. We know Masonic killing Jewish gematria is all 74. And look, this guy, another Jesuit ritual. Right? He dies born on September 9th and dies 263 days after his birthday. Right, did he die on May 30th? Let's see. Yeah, he died. He died on May 30th. Yep. Dead on May 30th, 2019, at the age of 88. 206 the mocking tongue. Yeah, of course. He died 263 days after his birthday, a 56 prime number. The name Lucas is 56, like the Society of Jesus. And he died while Denzel was 67 years old, a blood sacrifice number. And what's interesting is that he died 154 days after Denzel's birthday. And notice ritual sacrifice is 154, which also connects to Rayful Edmond, because Rayful Edmond, he was apprehended on April 15th. And Saturnalia is also 154. So all these so-called drug lords all dying by the same numbers, right? 88 and the Jesuit numbers, the 154s. They all have movies about them. Rayful Edmond has a documentary called The Rayful Edmond Story. Of course, Jay-Z also had the album American Gangster. And then he dies 177 days after Jay-Z's birthday. The Jesuit Order number. All of these plants. And the sad part is how many families were destroyed around this time, and because people just failed to realize who's really behind all this stuff, man. These were just the faces of the crime, but these were not the people really in charge. You know what I'm saying? And it's funny because this guy is connected to Denzel Washington. The other guy worked at operated out of Washington D.C. Washington, the state's capital. Showing people like where this all stuff is coming from. It's coming from your nation's capital, which sits on the 38th meridian. Because those are the people behind all this stuff. The 201 crew. Let me just look at Ronald Reagan real quick. He died at the age of 93. So yeah, so he got so Rayful Edmond got locked up around the Bush administration. Let me just see from Bush's birthday to the day he got locked up. Let me just take a look at that. So four, because Bush became president that year on 20/1, 1989. So he got locked up 85 days after Bush became 41. And what is his birthday? I don't think I measured. I think I did see it. November something. Yeah, November 26th. So he was locked November 26th. 140 days after his birthday. Hmm. Four 15/24. That was his arrest anniversary. His arrest date. He was arrested in 1989 on April 15th. He died on December 17th, which was 246 days. That's the Roman Catholic Church number. Um, or 35 weeks. Catholic is 35. He did a 35-year prison sentence as well. Let me see if I can find some. The thing is, I want to play some new stories because they'll probably give us some more clues. Because every time they put out the story, they tell us stuff that years. Because this happened years ago, right? So they usually say things in those stories that stand out right away. But the thing is, if I start playing one of those videos, they might just flag the video down like they did last time I was doing a live stream. Yeah, crack cocaine is 86. He was apprehended a span of 86 days after Bush became president. America's 50. Like cocaine. I could say anything. I could say a lot about all these numbers right here. Um, um let's see. It says here that he was selling for Griselda Blanco. You know what's funny? That's another one. Griselda Blanco. I mean, I'm telling you, all these people are all 201 agents. All of them. From Griselda to El Chapo, especially El Chapo. Um, this is other guy named Pablo Escobar. Look at this, you guys. Miss Griselda Blanco, the queen of cocaine. What does her name equal? What was it? I know she has a 201 in her name. Let me see. Oh yeah, that's what it was. She died 201 days after her birthday. Oh yeah. I'm telling you, man, these people. And she died on the 246th day of the year, the Catholic Church number. That's what I'm saying. Like this guy just died 246 days after his arrest anniversary. But notice Griselda Blanco, born February 15th, and she died September 3rd, 201 days after her birthday. She died at the age of 69. Notice DJ's World is 69 and 201. Catholic Church is 69 and 246. He died on the 246th day of the year. She was 69 years old, the godmother of cocaine. And then she died on September 3rd, right? Her name Griselda is 39, like. And it's also, you can also write it 9-3, the day that she died. Medellin cocaine cartel, her network, her crew equals 93. Just like Saturn, and this guy dies on Saturnalia. Yeah. Drug lord Griselda Blanco dead at 69, 201 days after her birthday. I mean, isn't it obvious who's really behind all these people? All these characters from Griselda Blanco to Alpo to Rayful Edmond to Wayne Perry to Frank Lucas. I mean, all these people are all agents, man. This guy died in a big Jesuit ritual 263 days after his birthday. The 56 prime number. All died. This guy dies in connection to a guy who coached at Georgetown, Jesuit Georgetown. Even the drug dealers, man. This stuff is sick, man. Stuff is sick. They control everything. They control the criminals. They control it all. The Illuminati controls it all. People don't have no idea how involved the government is. They think the government is just some old white people that just sit wear nice suits. They don't know how evil and genius these people are. You know. And you know what's funny about Griselda? She operated out of Florida, and then Rayful Edmond, who used to work for Griselda, he dies in Florida. Florida equals 38, like death and murder. Okay, let me just see. So she died in 2012. So 9-3. Yeah. Let me see what else we noticed about Mr. Rayful Edmond. Go back to that Wikipedia. Actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play at least one news article because I want to see what else they mentioned. I want to play this one, but I don't know if they're gonna flag my video. He isn't dead. They faked his death. Yeah, probably. I won't doubt that. Let me see what they're saying.
Hours now since we learned a significant figure in modern D.C. history died.
Yeah, but he wasn't a politician and he wasn't a sports star. Rayful Edmond was a notorious drug kingpin.
He thrived during the crack cocaine epidemic of the 1980s, which spiked the city's murder rate so high, D.C. became known as the murder capital of the nation. Edmond spent 35 years in prison. He was released 4 months ago to a halfway house in Miami. At the time of his release, News 4's Paul Webb.
You guys notice how they do this a lot. While they're showing this news story, they show it just happens to be 57 degrees wherever this broadcast is. I think this is in Washington, right? 57 degrees. Like maybe that's a coincidence, man. But name Rayful Edmond is 57, like Scottish, right? We just saw the Blue Jays lose to the Hoyas with 57 points. They do that a lot, though. You look at the temperature; they're always showing a number that's relevant to the story.
Wagner brought us this report on Edmond's impact on D.C.
The release from prison came as a bit of a surprise. Edmond is now out in part because in the 90s, he cooperated with the government after the FBI learned he was making large drug deals with the Colombia cartel from his federal prison cell in Pennsylvania. In 1994, he flipped and became a snitch. Court records show for the next 20 years, Edmond provided information to the feds that led to the convictions of at least 100 people. Here in D.C. during the late 80s, he ran his cocaine operation from a house in Northeast where a young police recruit successfully infiltrated the gang. In 2019, News 4's Jackie Benson spoke with the undercover officer, now retired.
I was in there for like 3 days and got asked, did I want to do undercover work?
The undercover was known to the gang as Jimmy, who remembers cocaine shipments being delivered by the truckload.
And a guy sitting on the back with a Uzi, with 2 Uzis.
At one point, Edmond became close with some of Georgetown University's top basketball players, and Coach John Thompson met with Edmond and asked him to leave his players alone.
Rayful respected that because Rayful was a big basketball fan.
The crack epidemic had the district in a vice grip for years, with countless murders linked to it. In the district, Paul Wagner, News 4.
Now, the News 4 I-Team's Tracy Wilkins joins us in studio here now. Tracy, you grew up here in Washington, D.C. So for people who are more recent transplants to this area or even younger people, can you sort of break down the impact that Rayful Edmond had on our area even more?
Well, so according to the prosecutors, he was operating some 60% of the crack cocaine that was moving throughout the District of Columbia. That is a large amount of drugs coming into this small city, right? And he had, at the time of his arrest, one of the most profitable drug operations in the nation, right? So what that looked like here was, I was raised in Prince George's County. My maternal grandmother lived in Northeast D.C., 42nd and Benning Road, just a couple of blocks up from Minnesota Avenue and near the shrimp boat. And I remember growing up and feeling just a feeling of safety in that community, being able to play and you know, do whatever there. And I also remember the change in 86, 87, 88, when the community just was different. Apartment complexes where working people lived became crack houses, you know, and the feeling of the community shifted. And I think that that happened throughout the district and a lot of places where Black people lived in D.C., that there was just this, it felt like living in a war zone, and all of the murders and all of the shooting and all of the things that were happening. And so it was a very difficult time. And I think that if you talk to these folks who have survived, because Edmond didn't do this alone. He had a network of dealers who he operated with, and there were a lot of people who were making money off of that operation. They lost, in addition to, for those who survived, a lot of time, right? Because of the war on drugs and these extended years that people spent in prison, and how that's impacted this generation, in addition to the addiction, the people who died, the people who were incarcerated. So many kids and grandkids have been left without loved ones. So that is the legacy, right? And Edmond apologized for the decisions he made when he was, you know, in his early 20s. He went to prison like 22, 23.
Yeah, well, you talk about his age. I want to bring up, in this morning's news meeting, you were talking about America's fascination with sort of, you know, gangsters, and the impact that he had on the area, as you mentioned. I mean, he died at the age of about 60, and the impact that he had in such a short amount of time in his youth in the city.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that we glorify crime and the underworld, but we tend to do that, right? That's just an American thing, right? But in this instance, we are living in the after effects of how all of these decisions that these young men made have impacted the city. A lot of them who are now trying to atone for what they did then, and you know, and if they had a second chance, would have made a different decision. There was an insane amount of money to be made, and a lot of people who wanted a part in that, and we are still dealing with the repercussions. So for people who weren't here to see D.C. before Edmond, D.C. after Edmond, it's two different cities in a lot of ways. And there was always hard drugs. We always had heroin. There was always a market. This was just much more controlled and much more organized than we had seen before.
You know, its reach being named the drug capital of the U.S. I mean, I didn't grow up here, but we heard about it in Indiana, and it was like, I don't know if we want to go to Washington, D.C. It's a scary place. So, I mean, when you think about even that.
The reach
you
it
know,
had.
Yeah, the reach.
Yeah,
So.
but folks are working to turn that around. And
Indeed.
again, including a lot of the folks who worked with him are also
Absolutely.
trying to make that better and heal these communities that have been devastated.
Tracy, thank you for your.
Nice little Jesuit colors. Yeah. These people are something else, man. Yeah, she's right about that. The impact that this all have. But the point I'm trying to make is that this wasn't all just Rayful Edmond. I mean, he's just the face of something, a deeper plan. This was the plan. This was the works of the Jesuit order, the works of the government. You put your local police. They was all in on it, man. All these. That's the only way this stuff happens. All these people have to be. Because, I mean, think about it. What was the cops doing? I mean, you trying to tell me that in the 80s there was no police departments? Like, what was they doing all day? They're allowing the guys to sell drugs. I mean, obviously they had to allow it for it to happen. If the cops is not in on it, it doesn't happen. And then this is how they mock you. They give you the sports games, show you the ritual, right? All right, I'll leave it there. Good night, everybody. Thank you for staying up late with us today, and hit the like, share, and leave a comment if you have any questions, any concerns. I'll definitely try my best to answer it. And well, you guys have a good night. Thank you for watching.